Let's take a look at the next horoscope. This is the horoscope of Joan Collins, who had her greatest success in the TV series Dynasty. Notice all of the planets here in house number 12. House number 12 is a house that is associated with villains, and of course she played a villain on Dynasty. Interestingly enough, again, she's a Gemini, the sign of communications, but the sign of Cancer is rising. Cancer is a sign that is associated with soap operas. Cancer being a very emotional sort of sign. Another point, she's got the sign of Aquarius right at the top of the horoscope. Aquarius is a sign associated with television. Well, basically anything electronic. Mercury makes a 90-degree angle to the top. Mercury is the communications planet. That indicates that your words can come before the public. Monica Lewinsky has something similar in her horoscope. Now, again, folks, you always have to consider the entire chart. Look at what we've done so far. A president of the United States, a movie star, and a soap opera villainess. Let's take a look at the next horoscope. This is the horoscope of Steffi Graf. Well, sports nowadays is something like show business. Steffi Graf is a triple Gemini. The sun in Gemini, the moon in Gemini, the rising sign Gemini. Gemini, the fastest sign in the zodiac. And of course, when you're playing tennis, you have to be fast. Interestingly enough, this horoscope is shaped something like a seesaw. You have a pile of planets on one side over here. You have another pile of planets here. Now, what's tennis about? Back and forth, back and forth. Well, this makes her fast, but does it make her strong? You have to look to her fifth house. That's the house of sports and games. That's over here in this section of the horoscope. You notice that the houses are numbered in the middle of the wheel. House number 5 rules sports and games. She has Jupiter there, the planet of good luck, and mostly she has Pluto there. Pluto is the planet of extremes, the all-or-nothing planet. When you have Pluto in the 5th house, games to you aren't games. They're deadly serious. You put everything into winning. And, of course, in Steffi Graf's case, it certainly, she certainly had good luck with her Pluto. Always consider the entire horoscope, folks. Now, the next horoscope is, again, just slightly different. This is the horoscope of Bob Dylan. Now, again, a Gemini sun sign, but the rising sign is now Sagittarius, the storyteller. Dylan just didn't sing. He didn't just compose songs. He told a story. Sagittarius is a sign that always has to either tell a story or it's philosophizing. It's always trying to make a point. A lot of his songs were there to make points. Blowing in the Wind, of course, was for the civil rights movement. And a lot of his other songs always seemed to have a point to them. They just weren't songs. And a storyteller as well as a communicator. A lot of planets in the sign of Gemini. And again, you know, Gemini has to get around. And, well, when you go all over the country singing, you're getting around. Also, in the relationship area, again, well, Gemini gets around. Let's take a look at the next horoscope. This is the horoscope of Barbara Walters, and she's a Libra. Libra is the sign of balance, but on the other hand, but on the other hand, but on the other hand. And, of course, it's a sign of partnership. How many times have you ever seen Barbara Walters working alone? She's usually with Hugh Downs, or on that other show, The View, she's surrounded by a bunch of other people. There always has to be a balance. There always has to be some form of partnership. And she's a double Libra. She has her rising sign in Libra as well. Well, how did she manage to get into the profession she did? Her moon, what you're like on the inside, the feelings, is in the sign of Gemini. The moon shows our emotional needs. Moon in Gemini gives an emotional need to communicate. The moon is the ruling planet of the sign of Cancer. Where was the sign of Cancer when Barbara Walters was born? Right there at the top. the top of the chart, the career, the public image, the goals of the life. And it's in Gemini, communications. This is a perfect setup for a reporter or for somebody who's running a talk show. The moon has favorable aspects to the planet Mars and the planet Mercury. Mars is energy, Mercury is communications. So this is a perfect setup for her. Interestingly enough, the planet Pluto is right at the top. The planet of extremes. Pluto is a planet that likes to expose hidden secrets, and of course on 2020 she's constantly dealing with situations that have to be exposed. A lot of the stories on 2020 are situations connected with corruption or something that's been hidden, and Pluto at the top of the horoscope just brings these things to the surface. Let's take a look at the next chart. The next chart is the horoscope of John Lennon, also a Libra sun sign. Libra, again, the sign of partnership. Well, of course, he was partnered with 3 other people in the Beatles. In John Lennon's case, the moon sits in the sign of Aquarius, the sign that likes to shock people. But he is a Libra, the sign of charm, so he shocked people in generally a charming way. The Beatles, when they first came out, were terribly shocking because they wore their hair long. It was a big scandal. At any rate, Aries rising, so here is somebody who's going to be very active. Notice that the moon is opposite the planet Pluto, the planet of extremes, and the Pluto is in house number 5. House number 5 is the house that rules your creativity. In John Lennon's case, Pluto was the only planet in what we call a fire sign. When you have one planet in one type of sign, folks, it's able to funnel all of the energy of the horoscope. So all of the energy of John Lennon's horoscope was funneled here into the sign of creativity. Well, not quite all of it. You see, he also had only one planet in a water sign, and that was the planet Mercury, the planet of communications. Again, extremes in creativity, communications. Pluto, again being the planet of extremes, was responsible, or at least partly responsible, for the fact that the Beatles were so popular. Pluto made an aspect to Mercury, which made an aspect to the top of the chart. Remember, if Mercury is an aspect to the top of the horoscope, your words will come before the public. And with Pluto, this can happen in sort of an extreme fashion. Well, it did. There was only one group called the Beatles, and they held literally all the records. That Mercury sitting in the sign of Scorpio shows that his words could have a very strong influence on the people around him, and it did.